Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. This video is going to be for the people out there that's just wanting to break into reloading 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch target loads. We're going to keep this one as simple as we can get. We might go into some detail about some, in-depth things here. But yeah, a few things we're going to go over is straight wall versus tapered hull. We're going to go over wads, straight wall wads versus tapered wall wads. We're going to go over Euro hulls versus American hulls and the crossover between them, and some other things like high brass versus low brass. The very first thing you need to know is there is a difference between hull type. I'm talking straight wall versus tapered. What does that mean? Well, in a straight wall hull, I'm going to use this clear one here as an example. The diameter of the wall, the plastic, is one diameter all the way down to the base wad. The base wad is what you see at the very bottom of the hull around the primer. That is it's the bottom of the shell. There is no taper. It's one straight diameter all the way down. Now in a tapered hull, like this Remington Gun Club here, they start off kind of thin up here. That's for easier crimping. But as you go down the hull, if you cut one of these in half long ways, you'll see the plastic actually tapers into a U shape. The bottoms of tapered hulls taper down into 14 gauge, roughly. It's 69 diameter at the bottom. Again, that's roughly. I'll measure that in just a second to show you, but we have a huge assortment of hulls here. There's quite a few tapered hulls and a few straight walls. To give you a better understanding of tapered versus straight wall, well, we're going to grab a wad that is meant for a tapered hull. This is a Claybuster CB0118-12 wad. We refer to it as the Claybuster orange wad. If we take a set of calipers and measure the bottom of the wad, which is called the gas seal, in inches, we get, let's see, roughly 6'8" to 6'9", depending on where you measure it. And I dropped the wad, but yeah, it's roughly 69, which is 14 gauge. 14 gauge is .693. Again, the base of tapered hull stepped down to roughly 14 gauge. What does that mean? Well, you can use less powder to get the same velocity and, for the payload weight as you can with a straight wall hull. Say, using red dot powder, you would want to use 17 grains to get roughly 1200 FPS in a tapered wall, or 19 grains, again that's roughly, for a straight wall hull to get the same 1200 FPS with the 1 1/8 payload. So, tapered hulls, you can use a little bit less powder, which saves powder in the long run, and the hulls tend to last a little bit longer. You can reload some of these tapered hulls up to 15 times. Not kidding. Straight wall hulls, you got to use a little bit more powder, but the pressure tends to be lower. Now, these typically don't last as long, 5-8 loadings at the most, and the crimp starts to get a little bit toasty and splits. That's fine. These are really cheap. Generally, tapered hulls are a little bit more expensive per box, but yeah, that's just the way it goes. If we measure the bottom of a straight wall wad, this is a Federal or Claybuster clone of a Federal 12S3. This one should measure about 7'3", 7'4". Well, let's see here. This one measures 7'2". So you see the difference there. This one measured right about 6'9", this one right about 7'2". Pretty big difference. If you were to take a straight wall wad and put it in a tapered wad or tapered hull, you probably are not going to be able to seat the wad all the way down the powder. It'll stop about right here, in my experience. And if you shake it, you'll hear the powder rattle around, which is no good. If you try to seat it farther than that, it usually tends to bulge out the plastic, which leads to chambering issues. So you can't use straight wall wads in a tapered hull, but you can use tapered wads in a straight wall hull simply by, well, let me show you here. Just taking a pair of needle nose pliers and pinching out the gas seal like that to make it fit the larger diameter straight wall shell. Or you could take a piece of paper towel or a napkin, cut it into a 1-inch square, set that over your hull, and then put the wad around it, and that will stop any powder from leaching up past the wad. You don't want that. That can lead to underpowered loads, underpressured loads, and well, just straight up duds. That's happened to us many times. Some of you guys may have gotten reloading manuals and noticed that there is a lot of data that uses straight wall hauls with tapered wads. Don't know why they do that, but whenever we find a load like that we want to use, well, we just flare out the gas seal with pliers or a 1-inch square piece of paper towel underneath the wad, and you're good to go. Straight wall hauls may not last as long, but they do offer a lot more capacity. You can get up to 1 5/8 ounce in these, and the highest payload weight I've seen for tapered hauls is 1.5 ounces. Not a huge difference, but to some people it is. But we're not talking magnum loads today, we are talking target loads. So moving on from that, we have Euro hauls versus American hauls. Let's see. Actually, the only American hauls I have here are the tapered ones. All of these straight wall hauls I have are Euro. Even this Federal here, this is a Federal haul, but it's actually a Rio haul. Rio is a haul manufacturer. They also produce some ammo, but Federal uses Rio hauls for their, target loads. So this Winchester, where is it? I have a Winchester here too. Super X, trying to find it. There it is. This Winchester Super X. You think Winchester and Federal, you think they're American brands. They must be American hauls. Nope. This Winchester here is a Shadat haul. Shadat is the largest manufacturer of hauls in the world. Stumbling over a lot of words today, guys. But yeah, this Winchester right here is a Euro haul. Now, most Winchesters you'll run across are actually American hauls. These are tapered. You'll notice one is low brass. This is the AA HS. And this is a Super X too, but this is a tapered haul. So Winchester is actually a little bit tricky. You got to pay attention to what kind of haul you have. They offer high brass tapered hauls. This is a Super X. This is also a Super X, but it's a straight wall Shadat Euro haul. These two are actually American. If you look down inside these, again, this is the AA HS and the high brass Super X. You'll notice, I can't show you here, I ain't got a lot, but if you look down inside these, you'll see a separate base wad. It creates a little shelf starting about right here. You can actually put your finger down there and feel it. This one has the same thing. This is another Winchester haul. This one is the Universal. The Super Target is the same thing. It's another tapered haul. You can look or feel down inside of it, and you'll feel the separate base wad. So even though they're American brands, Federal and Winchester both do use some Euro hauls. As far as I know, Remington does not use any Euro hauls. I could be wrong about that, but as far as I know, they don't. One more thing you have to watch out for is, yes, these are Euro hauls, but they have American-sized primer pockets. Euro hauls like this Fiocchi here, or this NSI, or this Fiocchi, these have Euro-sized primer pockets. The primers are bigger by 1 to 2 thousandths. You can correct that by getting a primer pocket conditioner from Ballistic Products or Reloaders Network. These are very simple to use. You set your hull on the base of it. This piece goes through your hull into the hole through the primer, and you just take a hammer and a hard flat surface and give this a few whacks, and that resizes your primer pocket to take American sized primers. Modern Shadat hulls, you can buy these brand new and primed from multiple different websites, but these have American sized primer pockets, so no need to resize these. If you're buying Shadat primers, they are now American size or as close as you can get to it, so they will go in your American hulls just fine. You can still get Rio hulls from Ballistic Products. They generally come unprimed, and again, these need a Euro size primer, or just get a primer pocket conditioner and resize it. Although Ballistic Products does currently have Rio primers in stock, if you don't want to resize your primer pockets, just get some Rio primers and they'll work just fine in your Euro hulls, or any hull for that matter. So we've covered straight wall versus tapered hull, we've covered Euro versus American hulls. Well, now we need to cover high brass versus low brass. High brass looks a lot cooler, yes, it does, it really does, but does it mean anything? No. You can take the hottest high brass loads you can find and put it in a low brass hull just fine. There is absolutely no pressure difference between the two. High brass, again, just looks cooler. And to better explain that, well, I have this hull right here. This is an old active hull. you'll see it's completely plastic aside from the primer, and these do have a steel rim where these little holes are. There's a steel rim in there to prevent the extractors from semi-autos from tearing through their plastic rims, but other than that, these are completely plastic shells. You don't actually need brass or steel at all in a shotgun shell to withstand the pressures. Shot shells are so low pressure that just plastic is absolutely fine. This shell was loaded with 1.5 ounces of number 6 shot, and it was a 4.5 dram load. I think that's 1260 FPS with the 1.5 ounces of shot. If I'm wrong about that, you guys correct me. But yeah, this was a heavy load for 2 3/4 inch. I believe it was a turkey load, and it's all plastic. So that means you can take this high brass Winchester Super X, which is again a tapered hull, and this Remington Gun Club here, use the exact same data. You can put Gun Club data in this Winchester here, be just fine. You can put Super X high brass data in this Gun Club, and it'd be just fine. Tapered hulls all share the exact same data. There is practically no difference in them. You can take data for, again, a Remington Gun Club and stick it in a Winchester AA. You can stick it in a Winchester Universal or Super Target. You can put it in a Winchester Original AA, the compression formed ones. They no longer make these as of like 2003. You can put it in a Remington STS, and so on. But that's not the case for straight wall. Generally, if the PSI is low enough, you can interchange data between straight wall hulls, but that's not always the case. Some Federal and Remington hulls, these straight walls have different base wad heights. The bottom of the shell inside of it will be a little bit taller or shorter, which requires the use of different kind of wads. So moving on, I'm going to turn this camera around, get you a better view of these hulls over here, and I'll go over some of the tapered hulls you run into. So going from left to right, we have a Remington Game Load hull. These are all tapered, by the way. Remington Nitro 27, or Nitro Gold. Remington STS. Federal High Overall, which is a Remington STS or Nitro, just colored maroon. Remington is producing the High Overall shell for Federal. If you guys have never seen these, it's literally just a maroon STS or Nitro 27. Remington Gun Club hull, which is a green version of the Remington Game Load hull. Winchester Original Compression Formed AA, otherwise called just Remington AAs. The new version of that, the Winchester AAHS, stands for high strength. These have a separate base wad. These hulls, starting from the compression formed all the way over, are one-piece hulls. The new AAHS is two-piece. The base wad is what's tapered in here. And again, you can't see it, but it has a separate base wad. It's two-piece hull. Same goes for the Universal. It's a cheaper made version of the AAHS. The plastic is thinner. They don't last as long. You can actually see the separate base wad in there. It's grayish white. Super X, tapered version of it. It is a high brass version of the Super Target or Universal. And then we have an active hull here, which is again tapered and all plastic. Very cool shells. There are other kinds of tapered hulls out there. Older ones are the Remington Premiers. You also have the newer American Clay and Field by Remington. Winchester makes a lot of tapered hulls under various different names. And moving into our straight wall hulls, we have Rios, these two right here. High brass and low brass. We have a Shadite. This one's brand new primed from Gum Gully Provision. These were, I think, Rottweils, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, supposed to be double-aught buck, but you can put whatever you want in them. Federal, this is again a Rio hull, Federal Top Gun. Federal doesn't actually make this hull. Winchester Super X, straight wall. This one is a Shadite hull, just like this copper one here is. We have a brand new primed Fiocchi Euro hull. Got these from Ballistic Products. This one is the same hull, but blue, clear blue. This is a Fiocchi White Rhino. And this one is an NSI hull, also made in Europe. I think NSI actually makes their own hulls. All of these, besides the three right here, the Shaddai, the Federal, and the Winchester, all will require a Euro-sized primer, like a Rio or a Fiocchi or Noble Sport. Or, like I said earlier, you could get a primer pocket conditioner and resize all of these that need it to American-sized primers. So let's cover wads for a second. These are 4 that I really like to use. Actually, they're pretty much all I use for 1 1/8 target loads. This is a downrange DFR3. It is a Federal 12S3 clone. Very good wad there. This is a Claybuster CB, I'm not sure of it, but it's another Federal 12S3 clone. We have a lot of these. We've used these for a long time. Great wad. This is the downrange DRXL118 blue wad. Another great one. This is actually a very nice looking wad right there. And this is what we use for tapered hulls. These are straight wall. But this one here is the Claybuster CB0118-12. We refer to it as the Claybuster Orange Wad. It is pretty much all we use for tapered hulls with a 1 1 ounce payload. I actually started off reloading 12 gauge with this wad, and I have seen no need to switch to anything else for tapered hulls. Our preferred wad for straight wall 1 1/8 target loads is the Claybuster clone of the Federal 12S3 wad. Side note here, if you guys ever want to load the Lyman 525 slug, it weighs 1 1/4 ounce, but that's besides the point. The best wad for it in smoothbore is, well, either of the 2 downrange wads. If you look down inside here at the pedals, you'll see no rib. The Claybuster 12S3 clone, you can see they have ribs on them, and that creates too much bulk for the Lyman 525 slug to fit in. It just doesn't fit, it bulges out the hull. You need to use the downrange wads. So we're going to move into actually loading 2 or 3 of these now. We're using number 9 lead shot here because I have 25 pounds of it in a giant pickle jar. We like to use number 9 shot for breaking clays or otherwise just shooting for fun. But we're going to start out with this original Winchester AA here, the compression formed 1-piece hull. We need our resize ring with the ring on the ring facing up. Slide that over your hull. Go to the front station of the reload all. If you're using a mech, well, refer to your instruction manual. I don't have a mech, but deprime and resize. Knock the ring back off. The brass is resized to factory specs, and we have our primer out of it. I'm going back with a Federal 209A. We have the 209A installed. Normally, I give you guys powder charges, but this time I'm not. 2 new reloaders, I suggest just grabbing a reloading manual and following it as close as you possibly can until you really know what you're doing and feel comfortable swapping out components. But I am using published load data here. Claybuster CB0118-12 wad. A little bit of compression on that, make sure it's on the powder good. If you shake it and don't hear any rattle, you're good to go for shot. We need 1 1/8 ounces of whatever size lead shot you want. Again, I'm using number 9. Shot size does not matter. All that matters is the payload weight. This can even be buckshot or a slug. 1 1/8 ounces is 492 grains, which I have right here. Ready to crimp this. The reload all you need for an 8-point hull. You'll look at this. The crimp has 8 points. You want a valley, I call them valleys, between the 2 points. You want that facing you and the front station of the reload all. And we have a really good looking crimp on here. I have no idea how many times this hull has been fired, but judging off the really dark color of it, I'd say it's been quite a few times. If you look at the once fired AAHS, well, this hull was originally the same color. Reloading straight wall is the exact same process. We need our resize ring, slide it up there, deprime and resize. That's the front station of the reload all. reprime. Second station, drop your primer in its little hole. That kicks the ring off and puts a new primer in, ready for powder, wad, and shot. Again, I'm not going to list powder charges here. You guys that are new, please consult the loading manual. We have the proper powder charge. For this one, we're using a straight wall wad, the Claybuster Federal 12S3 clone. We have our shot in place. This also has an 8-point crimp, so front station of the reload all. Valley between the 2 points facing you. Another really good looking crimp on that one. There's one more thing I want to talk about. I moved over to my other press. This one's set up for 16 gauge. Normally, when you're reloading shells, you would put powder in the left side of the hopper and shot in the right side. And this right here, that controls the shot and powder dropper. Slide it over to the right to drop powder. Slide it over to the left to drop shot. I do not have it set up to drop powder and shot right now because I don't do a whole lot of, I don't mass produce shells. 95% of my reloading is buckshot or slugs. I don't do a whole lot of birdshot. I do some turkey loads time to time, but 95% of my loads are all weighed by hand. That being said, if I'm loading a box of target loads or something to shoot clays with, I will absolutely fill up the shot and powder hoppers and use the press as normal. But like I said, I'm mostly a buckshot and slug guy. These days, reloading 12 or 20 gauge target loads, you're not really going to save a ton of money, if at all. But the good thing about reloading is you can find a load your gun really likes to shoot that may pattern really well out of your gun. Or you could have trouble finding a certain shot size you like. Say you like a straight 7 shot. That's really hard to find in lead. It's common in steel, but for lead, well, it's a little bit hard to find. You can grab a bag of number 7 lead shot and load all you want of it. Number 9 shot, like I was using here, isn't as common as 8 or 7.5 for target loads. We prefer number 9 shot whenever we're shooting clays because it seems to do really well inside 30 yards. You can even use target load data for stuff like 4, 5, 6 shot if you want to hunt squirrels, rabbits, things like that. And like I mentioned earlier, you can also load buckshot and slugs with the same data you would use for your target loads. Guys, if any part of this video was confusing to you or you need something clarified, please feel free to ask in the comments. We will answer you. We like helping people out. We're not one of those channels that ignore our viewers, ignore all the comments. We answer just about every comment there is. We actually go out of our way to help people out as much as we possibly can. I went over all the basics and a few more in-depth things. If you guys feel like I left anything out, please feel free to let me know in the comments. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Also like the video. We do stuff with 8 different gauges and all shell lengths, from 2.5-inch 410 all the way up to 3.5-inch 10 gauge 3-ounce loads. We even cover the more obscure stuff like the relatively new 3-inch 28 gauge. We do 24 gauge, 32 gauge, and all of the common stuff. We mostly load buckshot, but we also do just plain lead shot. We do turkey loads, bismuth, TSS, steel shot, you name it, we do it. But anyway, guys, I think that'll do it for this video. Please like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below and we'll get back to you. And if you want to, go check out our Patreon. It's as low as $1 a month, and you guys get early access to content. A link to that, as well as a link to our Instagram and Rumble accounts, will be in the description below. But other than that, you guys take it easy, and we'll see you in the next one.